Hey guys, it's Spencer. I'm going to show you some keyboard shortcuts and 3D stuff to help you guys out with your text before Ron's class. So here I have a composition. Um, Important keyboard shortcuts. If you hit Control N, that lets you make a new composition. If you hit Control K, that opens up your current composition settings and you can change the name and all your other information here. So if I say control and you're on a Mac, control equals command. So command K, command N. So let me just go through all the random keyboard shortcuts that I know of because they save you a lot of time. So control Y opens up the layer new solid. So I'll make a new solid. If I hit G, that's the pen tool. So then you can draw a mask. If you want to manipulate the object in your window, if you want to manipulate your window, you can zoom out with your mouse wheel, but you can also middle click to bring up the hand tool to pan around your composition. If you're on any tool, you can hit V to go to the default selection tool, which allows you to move your stuff around. If you want to rotate your object, you hit W. That lets you rotate. If you hit Y, you can grab and move the rotation point or the anchor point. You get more options when you come down and click on your layer in the layer window. If you click on this, now if you hit R, that brings up rotation here. If you hit T, that brings up transparency. S is scale. If you hit M, you get your mask, and if you hit F, you get your mask feather. So that's all stuff that the drop down can do, and sometimes there's more stuff in the drop down than what there's keyboard shortcuts for, but that's the thing. So let me go over really quickly the 3D stuff. In order to start a 3D composition, all you have to do is hit the 3D layer box here. Now the layer's 3D and there's more transform options, mostly in the fact that there's more rotation. So you can rotate this in 3D here, you can rotate it in 3D this way, and you can rotate it in 3D this way. Now the weirder your anchor point is and the more you mess with all three of these at the same time, the harder it gets to manage any shapes. So I'm going to hit Control Y again, make a new shape that's a little bit bigger. So right now I have a completely full-size thing. So if I hit R down here and I want to rotate it to be a wall, you can just type in 90 degrees. And now, oh, I can't see it because it's rotated completely away from the camera. To make working in 3D easier, you can open up two views. Oop. Horizontal is probably what you want because that's the most friendly for screen real estate. So you see these little orange rectangles or these orange triangles down here at the bottom of each screen. That shows what screen is active. So right now I have a top view and I have an active camera view. So I'm going to change this top view to a left view. So now we can see we're pointing directly at that block. So I'm going to put it back up to top. And now when I click on it, I can see where in 3D space this layer is when I move it. So you can see there's a different option on each view. If I was to duplicate this wall, which is Command D, now I have two gray solids, so I'll name this one, you can right click and hit rename floor, and I'll name this one wall. Another keyboard shortcut, if you hit Command Shift Y, that opens up the solid settings. So if you made a solid and you want to change the color, you can do that there. So now I have two 3D objects here. I'm going to make this red one the floor. So I'm going to hit R. I'm going to put this back to 0. I'm I'm going to change the X rotation. I'm going to move it this way, and I'm just going to type in 90 so I know it's correct. Now I have this view here. I move this down. I move it back over, and you can see when it's going to match up with the wall we have there. So now they're colliding. So building things in After Effects 3D is pretty sketchy. If you hit C, you get this camera icon, which you need a camera to manipulate. So I'm going to hit Layer, New, Camera, Control Alt Shift C. So now I actually have a camera that I can manipulate in 3D. So as you can see back here, there's a camera in 3D space now that's orbiting around this point, and this point never moves. That is the point of interest. So if you make it so that the point of interest can change, and you come over here and you drag that point of interest, that's one way to manipulate the camera. And you can keyframe that. So it gets pretty sketchy with all these camera controls. So try and limit your camera to pretty dolly-like options, because it'll do some weird things the more you try and do with it. So here I have some text that flies in from the camera, and it has a bunch of effects on it, but you can see I only have 2 layers in this composition. So that's because I pre-comped a bunch of stuff. So I'll go back through. You can see pre-comp 2 is up here. Pre-comp 2 is full of pre-comps of pre-comp 1. Pre-comp 1 is all the way back here. So in order to align this text in a more aesthetically pleasing way, I made each block manipulatable as its own separate text layer, rather than trying to hit enter and space everything the way I wanted it to be in one separate or one complete text block. Also, I have an adjustment layer here. An adjustment layer, if you go to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer, Control Alt Y, the adjustment layer allows you to put multiple effects on multiple layers, but the only layers the effects are on is the adjustment layer. So you can see here there's no effects. If I hit the eyeball to turn it on, the effects are applied. You can see that better here. So you can see I have multiple 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4 effects on here, but each block of text, well, that's a shitty example. Okay, anything to put in an adjustment layer goes on top of every single layer under it. So I have these block dissolve blinds that are erasing this text. I didn't put that on each separate piece of font. That's all just on the adjustment layer. So yeah. So if you want to pre-compose everything, you click the layers you want to pre-compose, you hit Control-Shift-C, and that allows you to pre-compose them. So if I make a pre-comp 3, that collapses everything in here. If you double click it, that'll open it so that you can adjust it again, but it's still collapsed in the original composition. So I'm going to undo that because I don't want to do that right now. But you can see that's what I did. I put all this stuff as comp 1, pre-comp 1, and then pre-comp 1 I selected all of these and put them into pre-comp 2 in this comp. So it's a little weird to get your head around, but it just lets you, once you decide that's how I want something to look, you can pre-comp it all and have less stuff to worry about for when you're animating it later. Like this, I shrank everything a little bit with just one scale operation rather than putting that on every single piece of text. So let me show you some more 3D window stuff. You can see I have a bunch of different pieces of text here coming in independently animated from one another. So if I go to 2 views, you can see each layer moving towards the master layer at different points in time. So that's just an easier way to see what's going on and where they need to stop before I delete them. So now I'm going to show you a quick tip for organization. Here I have a little bit of a cartoon, And each little person down here that's moving is its own separate layer. So if you scroll through my project, you're like, well, he doesn't have a billion hundred layers. You're like, well, he does have 100. But you can't see half of them. You can only see it goes from 55, 65, 66, 68, 83. So some layers are missing. Where'd they go? Well, I hid them with the shy option. So if I unclick that, all of my people layers show up. That's the first 50 layers is just little dudes crossing the street. So as you can see here, under the shy uh, row or column, I don't know which one, I hit that little face. So anything that is plugged under will be hidden. Anything that's not will show up all the time. So then in order to hide that, you click this up here and they all hide. So that's just to clean up your timeline. Then another example of pre-comps up here. I have the Educare sign, which is this blue rectangle here. It has a bunch of stuff going on. If it would load, you can see there's text and stuff. Comp 2 is just that sign spinning around and having some bullshit going on. And then you just drop that back in here, scale it the way you want it, and it's small and it's good to go. So those are ways you can keep your projects from getting way too big.